The clang of the courtroom doors echoed like a gavel before the judge could even lift his own. Fluorescent lights flickered above, throwing a sterile glare across the beige walls and polished wooden benches. Everything felt too clean, too quiet. To civilized, a sharp contrast to the rawness of the woman standing between two bailiffs. Her hands cuffed behind her back. She stood still, spine straight despite the cuffs, her hair pulled into a tight bun. Her uniform was gone, replaced with civilian clothes that did little to hide the tension coiled in her muscles. The press had already dubbed her the Phantom Shooter for the classified missions.
Ow.
No one could confirm, but everyone whispered about. She had no rank now, no name on any roster, just another defendant in a courtroom accused of something unthinkable. Disobeying a direct order during a joint NATO operation and allegedly compromising a mission. The judge peered down at her through his glasses. "Defendant," he began coldly, "you stand accused of insubordination, falsifying mission reports, and unauthorized use of lethal force. How do you plead?" She didn't flinch. Her voice, quiet but firm, cut through the room. "Not guilty." Murmur rippled through the audience. Some were reporters hungry for scandal. Others were family members of the men who hadn't come back from that mission. She was the only survivor. And now, they wanted her to answer for it. Prosecution jumped first, parading blurry drone footage and redacted mission logs. They painted her as reckless as a liability. The prosecutor, a man who had never been closer to combat than a courtroom drama, described her as emotionally unstable and dangerously insubordinate. She deviated from orders, he hissed, pointing at her as though the jury couldn't see her. She took the shot when told to wait. Because of that, 3 men are dead. The judge looked at her defense attorney, a court-appointed rookie. He looked like he belonged more in a college library than beside a seal. He stumbled through objections and fumbled his papers. When it was her turn to testify, he hesitated. You sure you want to do this?" he whispered. She nodded. "They already buried me. Let them hear the truth." She stepped to the stand, cuffs still on. No one made a move to remove them. Her eyes scanned the room, not for sympathy, but for acknowledgement. She spoke clearly, with the precision of a sniper and the weight of someone who had buried too many truths. "We were behind enemy lines in the mountains outside Kandahar," she began. "The team had intel. There was a weapons cache guarded by insurgents. But the locals tipped me off that a bomb maker was meeting with a foreign financier, a bigger threat. I asked command for permission to pursue. They said no, said it wasn't our objective. I went anyway." Her voice didn't tremble. "I took the shot, killed both. 2 days later, we found out they were planning simultaneous attacks on 3 U.S. embassies." The prosecutor objected, yelling, "Speculation." She ignored him. "What isn't speculation is this. Those 3 soldiers who died, they weren't killed because I went rogue. They were ambushed an hour before the team would have reached them anyway. I disobeyed a flawed order to stop something worse, and I would do it again." Gasps circled the courtroom like wind whipping through trees. The judge banged his gavel once, twice. "Order. This isn't a war room. It's a court of law." She stared back at him. "With respect, sir, the law didn't follow us into the valley that day. Only courage did." Then came the twist no one expected. Just as the prosecution readied to hammer her again with circumstantial evidence, the courtroom doors opened a second time. This time, no one dared move. A man in full naval regalia entered, silver stars on each shoulder and ribbons spanning his chest like a story untold. His white gloves held a thick folder. His face was stoic, carved by decades of war and diplomacy. An audible gasp slipped from the back of the room as someone whispered, "That's Admiral Keating." The judge rose in surprise. "Admiral Keating, this is highly irregular." The Admiral walked slowly, deliberately, up the aisle. Didn't look at the judge. He didn't glance at the jury. His eyes were locked only on her, the woman in cuffs. "I apologize for the interruption, Your Honor," he said. "I believe this hearing has overlooked a few classified details." He placed the folder on the judge's bench. "With your permission, this evidence has just been declassified under presidential order. It contains full mission logs." intercepted communications, and satellite images confirming everything the defendant said, and more. The judge's eyes widened as he flipped open the folder. The prosecutor stepped forward, sputtering. "With all due respect, Admiral, this trial is an embarrassment." The Admiral cut in sharply. "You're prosecuting a woman who prevented one of the largest terror attacks on U.S. soil in a decade. And you're doing it because you didn't have the clearance to know the truth." He turned then, facing the room. "This sniper, Lieutenant Commander Elise Hart, not only took down a financier funding attacks across NATO bases, she also neutralized the insurgents. Before they reached her team, had she followed protocol, thousands might be dead. The 3 men we lost that day were heroes. Yes, but their deaths weren't caused by her. They died on a mission that never should have been greenlit without better intel. She gave everything. To prevent worse?" The courtroom was silent. The judge looked pale. "I'll need time to review this, no," the Admiral said. "You need to release her now." He turned to the bailiffs. "Remove her cuffs. That's an order." They hesitated, but only for a second. The clink of metal hitting the floor was the loudest sound in the room. She didn't move at first, just stared down at her wrists, the faint red marks like bruises against her skin. Then she looked up at the Admiral. He walked to her, extended his hand, not in command, but in respect. Then, in front of everyone, judge, press, soldiers, and civilians, he saluted her, and the entire courtroom froze, because the Admiral never saluted first. It was tradition. It was protocol. It was the law of ranks and respect. But here he was, offering the kind of salute given only to those who earned it beyond the battlefield, those who had carried burdens silently, fought wars that could never be spoken of, and stood alone when no one else believed them. Slowly, the gallery began to rise to its feet. One by one, no applause, no shouts, just reverence. The judge cleared his throat. "Charges dismissed. Lieutenant Commander Hart, you're free to go. And thank you." She nodded once. No smile. Just the faintest glint in her eyes. Not of victory, but of release. The burden had been heavy. But now the truth had its day. As she walked out, the press exploded outside, cameras flashing. But she didn't stop. The Admiral walked beside her, silent as always. "Why now?" she finally asked him. He looked ahead. "Because heroes shouldn't die in courtrooms after surviving wars." The doors closed behind them, and for the first time in years she felt lighter. Not because the war was over, but because someone finally saw her for what she was. It's not a ghost, not a myth. A soldier, a protector, a SEAL.